Hi, welcome to this video today. We're going to be looking at one of the most accurate market forecasters ever and see what we can learn from him as Forex traders. His name was Edson Gould. And he's probably not familiar to many people, so I'm just going to go through his history, how he analysed the markets, and what we can learn from him. Now, in the 1960s through to the 1980s when he died, he just was the most accurate forecaster out there. He's getting every major top stock market top or bottom right, and he had a huge amount of intermediate calls right as well. To give you an idea of how accurate he was, in 1963 he predicted the bull market in stocks would end in 1966 and gave the date. It ended. He then predicted there would be an 8-year bear market. There was an 8-year bear market. In 1979 he made the rather optimistic call for the Dow Jones to rise to 3,000 in 10 years' time. In 10 years' time, where was the Dow Jones? At 2,999. He'd actually died by then, but yeah, he just had such a fantastic forecasting record. So how did he do it? Well, he started working for Moody's Investor Services. He was mostly involved in studying the economic fundamentals, but he actually came to the conclusion that sentiment was the real driver of prices and the way to pick tops and bottoms. And he was a huge fan of The Crowd by Gustave Le Bon, which is a book I'd recommend any Forex trader read. It was written in the 19th century, but it still remains the greatest work on crowd psychology ever written. It's in our top 10 books. I suggest you check it out. So what he did was he wanted to judge sentiment, so he developed his own sentiment indicator, which was called Centimeter, which divided a stock price by its dividend to find out how overbought or oversold the market was. And he used that to pinpoint where he thought the market would turn. He'd always keep the long-term fundamentals in mind as well, because they do drive prices long-term, of course. But sentiment, he was very into just basically isolating those tops and bottoms, and he'd use charts to decide where a market might turn. So he combined all three disciplines, fundamentals, technical analysis and sentiment. I think the thing you can learn from Gould is that basically you do get a more complete picture if you look at all three disciplines. Let's face it, the fundamentals, the big fundamentals, drive prices longer term. We all know that sentiment is very important in the short term for intermediate calls, and also if it goes too far it can indicate a trend change. And I think we all know the importance of charts for timing entry. Also, what I think we can learn from Gould is that he wasn't interested in the real small moves, like he called them the wiggles and jiggles of the market. He said they were unpredictable. You just couldn't predict where prices would go in the short term. So he's an intermediate and a long-term trader. Everyone knows my view on day trading, a complete waste of time. I'm all for looking at the longer term. And that's what Gould did. And he was very, very successful at it. And I think, just don't focus on one discipline. There's a lot of technical traders who say that the sentiment is obvious from the chart. It isn't obvious from the chart at all. You should use a sentiment indicator. My favourite is the net traders positions, for example. You need to look beyond the charts to find the really bullish consensus or the bearish consensus. So always use a sentiment indicator. I see nothing wrong, even if you're a chartist looking at the long-term fundamentals. They rule long-term. Sentiment tends to rule short term. Now I think with Gould, he was a hard-working man. He shunned the limelight. He kept working until he was 81. And he was just very, very successful at what he did. But he's not very famous. And why isn't he very famous? Well, I think if you just contrast it, let's take it with Nelson Elliott. Hugely popular in the Forex community for forecasting and prediction. Elliott never predicted anything. So why is he so popular and Gould isn't? Well, Elliott, of course, has the wacky side to him. It just appeals to the far out crowd about the natural order of markets. Gould was a realist. He traded the odds. And he might not be as famous as Elliott, but he was far, far more successful. I think the lesson we can learn from him is to basically, focus on the three disciplines together and just basically play the odds. We might not be as successful as Gould was, but I think it's the way to trade. And I think if we focus on the way Gould made money, then that is a great way to trade the markets. So thank you very much for watching this short video. I suggest you go and read a little bit more about Gould. He was a truly outstanding forecaster and predictor of prices. Thank you very much for watching me as per usual. Take care. Have a good day.